Well, I'm Christian Seifert. I'm a researcher in residence at the Forta Foundation. And today I'll talk about a comprehensive security strategy that allows you to reduce your risk against on-chain attacks. Why is this the topic of my talk? Well, generally it is not going so well. If you look at 2021, there were about $2.3 billion lost in Web3 attacks. In 2022, even despite the market conditions, it seems like we're going to exceed that value. If we're looking at a few examples here on this slide, so inverse finance, this was a protocol that actually got hacked twice in 2022. The last one, about $1.2 million were lost. It was a flash loan-assisted price manipulation attack that lasted about 8 minutes from kind of the first transaction to the last transaction. Badger DAO, this was an interesting one. This was actually a web front-end compromise where the attacker inserted a JavaScript code that tricked users into signing token approvals. That happened over about a 2-week period. And then after that 2-week period, the attacker drained all the funds from the user's accounts. About 120 million were lost. And the last one is the Ronin Bridge, which I am sure many of you are familiar with. This was the largest hack so far in terms of dollars lost, $624 million. This was a validator key compromise. An interesting aspect about this particular attack was that it wasn't uncovered until 6 days after the attack. So somebody wanted to withdraw some ETH, it didn't work, and so then they contacted the protocol, and that's how this was uncovered. The US government tied this particular attack to the Lazarus Group, which is affiliated with the North Korean government, so that kind of gives you an idea on the type of actors that are active. Now, the way I think about security is captured on this slide. There's pre-deployment and post-deployment. I think many of you are familiar with the pre-deployment stages in terms of utilizing template libraries like the Open Zeppelin library and going through a smart contract audit. But I would argue that you need to take a more comprehensive view on security and also think about post-deployment. And what falls into that category are bug bounties, real-time monitoring and alerting, and incident response. And real-time monitoring and alerting is where the Forta protocol and the Forta network comes in. So Forta is a decentralized network that monitors on-chain activity for indicators of attack. Analogy here is, think of it as a big security camera and alarm system that looks at your protocol. At a high level, the network consists of 2 components. One are scan nodes, and we have about 4,000 scan nodes on the network right now. These are responsible to forward detection bots to analyze essentially for attacks. These detection bots are a combination of ML models, anomaly detection algorithms, and simple heuristics. You can subscribe to the alerts that are generated by the Forta network, or you can go to the Forta Explorer and explore alerts, as well as get a sense of the state of the network. As I mentioned, we have about 4,000 nodes currently on the network that support 7 different EVM-compatible chains, Ethereum, Polygon, Binance, Avalanche, Optimism, Phantom, and Arbitrum. And I'm sure that list will continue to grow over the coming months. Now, when I think about on-chain attacks, you may be a little bit skeptical that you're able to kind of monitor, identify those attacks, and have enough time to mitigate an attack. A good counterexample is the Ronin Bridge attack. As I mentioned, attack was successful. Users happily deposited into the bridge. And so even though that the attack was completed, there is still value in identifying that attack. But looking at past attacks over the last few months, what we find is that an attack actually goes through these 4 stages. An attacker first needs to get some funding in order to pay for transactions that they then submit onto chain. That funding often comes through privacy protocols like Tornado Cash. Then they move into a preparation stage. So depending on the type of attack, so if we're thinking, for instance, a re-entrancy attack, they would have to deploy a smart contract, an attacker's smart contract. Then they move to exploitation, where they actually drain financial assets from the protocol. And then once they have done that, they move to the money laundering stage, where they convert non-native assets into native assets, and then again, utilizing privacy protocols like Tornado Cash to get the money out. Now, monitoring and alerting is going to be of no use unless you have an incident response process hooked up behind your monitoring solution. And for that, there's a few things that you need to do. First of all, you need to prepare your protocol to be incident response ready. Are you able to pause your smart contract? What about if your protocol is managed by a multi-sig? Do you have an on-call roster of all the signers? So when an incident occurs, you're able to get the right folks onto your bridge in order to actually respond. What are your communication channels? So there's a whole bunch of preparation work that needs to happen. Then how do you actually find out that an incident is occurring? Your community may be reaching out to you, but how do they do that without increasing the risk of whatever is happening? If there is internal monitoring systems like Forta, who is actually looking at those alerts and triaging those alerts? And then as part of the triaging, of course, declaring an incident. Once an incident is declared, well, who needs to work on that incident? Do you have kind of the right folks available? And then what is the goal of the incident? And then when do you declare an incident resolved? And then at the last stage, once the incident is resolved, conduct a post-mortem. That allows you to really tune your incident response process, but then also instill some confidence with your users in the community that you're taking this seriously and learning from the incident and making the necessary improvements to secure your protocol. Now, when we're talking about risks to a protocol and kind of the associated monitoring, well, how do you identify those risks? In the Web 2 world, for many, many years, threat modeling is being utilized. And I think threat modeling is something that can be transferred into the Web 3 world as well. And threat modeling consists of these 3 stages. First of all, you decompose your protocol. You understand how it interacts with external entities, like users, libraries, and protocols. You identify the use cases. You identify what assets the attacker may be after, as well as the special protocol. Once you have decomposed your protocol, then the next step is to identify the risks. You can use threat categorization frameworks like Stride or the decentralized finance attack matrix. These are really prompts that cause you to ask questions. So one prompt in the DeFi attack matrix may be, hey, there's a flash loan, right? That is a risk. Once you see that, then you can basically ask yourself the question, well, what could an attacker do with large amounts of digital assets with your protocol? Once you have the list of risks identified, you should rank them based on the likelihood and the severity. There's probably a long, long list, and you're not able to do everything. Preferably, you would want to mitigate these risks in the protocol directly, but that is not always possible. In those cases, choose to implement monitoring. As part of the risk assessment, you're also making some assumptions. Again, these are great opportunities to put monitoring in place. Now, fortunately, at Forta, it is a mature network that has a whole slew of detection bots and monitors already in place that you're able to utilize. So what the community has done over the last few months is create these threat detection kits. These are essentially bundles of detection bots that are identifying attack behavior in a generic way. And they're customized for the type of protocol that you're dealing with. So we have a threat detection kit on DeFi, NFTs, stablecoin, governance, and bridges. Yes, sir.
Is that community provided and produced? How do you guard against someone putting something in there that will list?
Well, I think there's the way I would look at this, the detection bots may look at an attack behavior from a variety of angles. So it's really a defense in depth sort of approach. Just because, let's say somebody developed a token impersonation bot, doesn't mean there isn't a bot that also kind of identifies that related behavior.
I guess there's incentives.
Not yet. I think right now it's really a passionate set of community members that want to make secure Web3. So these threat detection kits are something that you're able to subscribe to today. You merely need to provide your contract addresses and how you want to receive the alerts, a variety of channels, Slack, Telegram, PagerDuty, etc. Also, several protocols have integrated with Forta and have developed custom detection bots that really target identifying risks that are specific to a particular protocol. So for instance, Compound, they worked with OpenZeppelin to develop detection bots. If your protocol is a Compound fork, well, those bots are probably quite relevant to your protocol as well, so you're able to get the code, fork them, and deploy them. Also, you can look at the bot search page. So let's assume you're interested. Let me look at the slide here. Well, let's assume you're interested in flash loans. Maybe that is a threat that you identified, and it's not part of the DeFi threat detection kit. Look at the bot search page. Just do some keyword searches. It is very likely that some community members have developed a detection bot for the threat that you identified. And then lastly, of course, you can develop your own custom detection bots. Forta provides SDKs in Python and JavaScript. It is very trivial to develop a detection bot. And it is permissionless in that you're able to develop and then deploy a detection bot onto the Forta network without any involvement. When a detection bot is deployed, it usually gets deployed on multiple scan nodes in order to increase reliability and redundancy. And once you deploy a detection bot, it is on the network within minutes, and you're able to subscribe to alerts right after. So that's all I had. Overall, I feel like in order to secure Web3, you need to have a comprehensive security strategy. Don't just think about smart contract audits. Also think about kind of the post-deployment stage in terms of bug bounties, of real-time monitoring, and incident response. If you have a protocol and would like to get monitoring in place, I'll encourage you to check out app.forta.network and subscribe to one of the threat detection kits.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I have a quick question. So it's just like the posterior, just find the tag after the 0 day. It says we cannot resist or prevent this kind of attack, right? Or we find that this hacking happens And then we detect the events and like the events in the network, and then we can subscribe the events and then find those issues.
So the goal is not to just alert you after an attack, right? We want to alert you as early as possible, so you're able to mitigate the attack.
Okay.
Now, attacks, for instance, the inverse finance, it had like an 8-minute span, right? And so there is detection bots for all these stages, right? Funding, preparation, and then exploitation. If there's an alert right here, you're able to mitigate the attack. Now, you have to be very quick. It probably is not a manual incident response process, but more of an automated incident response process.
But for some hackers, they would like to do some experiment in a test net or develop some private network and then to just test, for example, the sandwich attack or the fractional attack. They already know what's the TVL inside this project. Then they probably will just use the flash loan and drain all of those TVLs if there are vulnerabilities.
There are certainly attacks that are atomic, where it's like one transaction and game over. But that is not what we have observed looking at attacks over the last few months. Usually it goes through these stages. The attack spans several blocks, and there is an opportunity for automated incident response. Yeah.